gotta just press record.
With more and more people working from home, it's really important that you create a home office space that allows you to be more productive, inspired to get work done, as well as creative as well. And whether you're creating content out of your home office or doing tasks like Zoom calls and things like that, we want to show you all the various setups here at Think Media just to give you some creative ideas for any home office setup or YouTube studio. And we're actually going to kick it off with my own personal desk office setup, which I actually am able to accomplish everything that I need to accomplish on it. And I really think you're gonna get some great ideas in this one, as I'm able to do productivity tasks like Zoom and my Monday.com and Slack, as well as do things like video edit and create thumbnails for YouTube videos, as well as the ability to do live streams with multiple cameras, all that on my desk setup. So let's jump into it right now. So I have an electric standing desk that allows me to change the height if I want to stand and work as well as sit and work. This is really nice. I think one of my other favorite features about this desk is it's a glass top. So I know a lot of people have like wood butcher block tops to their desk, and I think that's such a vibe, but I love the glass top, not only because it's easy to clean, but it's also a dry erase board essentially. So I can write on my desk and easily clean it with a cloth and some water. And so I do use my desk in that way. And secondly is I actually added wheels to my desk, and you can do this with pretty much any desk if they have the screw underneath, but I have added the wheels because I actually like changing my desk position for when I do live stream or when I do film in my office. And so this allows me to get the angle I want. This also allows me to flip around the desk if I'd like to. And the cable management actually allows me to do that easily because I've tucked everything up, which I'll talk about in a second. But having wheels on your desk, if you want some versatility, is pretty key. As far as the chair that I use an autonomous ergo chair core. This is one of their more affordable options on their website. I love that I can just chill back and rest my feet. I don't really do that, but I bought it because of it. But it's a great chair and very comfortable. Now, as far as cable management goes, I try to do my best with all the tech I have and all the wires going everywhere. And just to start with power, I've essentially command stripped a few power strips underneath my desk. This allows me to hide cables that need power, obviously, but that definitely helps the power side of things. Now, as far as like hiding the cables, I actually bought this adhesive cable holder from Amazon, which allows me to just tuck in all the loose cables behind the desk itself. And so literally when you're just looking at the face of my desk from standing or sitting, you literally don't see anything but two cables, and that is the main power cable that needs to be plugged into the wall, as well as my Ethernet cable, because I like being directly connected into my internet so I can get as fast upload and download speeds as much as possible. As far as my computer goes, I'm using a Mac Mini with the new M1 chip, and I've upgraded it to 16 gigabytes of RAM, and it's been able to handle a lot of things. And I actually used to use a MacBook Pro 15-inch to kind of run all my stuff, but I do like having the Mac Mini, and I think it's very affordable too if you're trying to get a computer that's reliable. I've actually command stripped it. You know, I'm kind of obsessed with command strips, as you noticed, but I've command stripped a mount behind the monitor to actually hold the Mac Mini in place. And this has just made it easy for it to be, again, out of sight, out of mind. And I've seen this mount be used several different ways. And so even if you mounted it on the wall behind your monitor or what have you. Now, there are some things that I would consider make it really awesome. And the first is the monitor I have. I have it hooked up to a 32-inch IPS monitor from ViewSonic, and I've been loving this monitor. The colors are great. It's very accurate. The secondary monitor I have is actually just about $100 or $150 monitor that only needs Thunderbolt 3 to actually power and just put on the display. And this monitor isn't high quality or anything like that. I just use this secondary monitor essentially to just share my slides when I'm doing live streams and teachings. And so, you know, having a full size monitor where you know that when I share this, everything that you see here is gonna be seen. The Mac Mini doesn't actually have all that many ports. I've actually expanded the Mac Mini using a CalDigit hub. This is essentially a dongle on steroids. And so with one Thunderbolt cable plugged into the Mac Mini, I now have an SD card reader. I plug in a lot of the tech around my computer that has USBs into that CalDigit just to be able to make it more clean and efficient. And so I plug in my Stream Deck to it, my electric coffee mug to keep my coffee warm. Yes, Omar's a weirdo and has to keep his coffee warm as long as I'm drinking coffee. My secondary monitor is actually plugged into the CalDigit as well. And I typically edit video off my solid state drives, and having to plug it in right there is just super nice and convenient. And I think a lot of my desk is that. It's just convenient altogether. As far as my keyboard goes, I use the Magic Keyboard 2 from Apple. And initially when I bought the Mac Mini, I already had a trackpad from Apple, but it had Bluetooth connectivity issues. And so I ended up just going with the Logitech MX Master 3 mouse, and I've loved this mouse. I've learned to love it because there's so many ways to customize it for whatever programs you're using. And as a Mac user, I like using all those fancy things like the swiping up with 2 fingers and this and that. So what's cool about the Logitech is it allows me to do a lot of those things to make me efficient and quick when it comes to actions with the mouse. Well, I hope you're enjoying the breakdown of my desk setup, but I wanted to take a moment and answer some of the questions that have come in from our Think community around my setup. And you're more than welcome to ask any question down in the comments below, and we'll do our best to answer them, whether it be directly or on screen like this. But the first question comes in from Kevin, and he says, "Love your setup." Thank you, Kevin. Where did you get the Think sign behind your desk? I got this custom-made neon sign with the Think logo at a local signage shop, or a local sign shop here in Las Vegas where a lot of us live. And it's a shop that would make the signs for regular brick and mortar stores, is who I had make it. And I told them I wanted to hang it in my office, so they put like the chains. It's pretty heavy duty, but you could totally go online and order either a custom logo online, or get something that's already made. Maybe there's a phrase that you live by or something, or a word you live by. They probably have pre-made neon signs, whether it be on Amazon or what have you. But personally, I got my sign from a local sign shop. And then the next question that came in is from Love Button, and they ask, can the ATEM switcher I have do picture-in-picture? Simple answer, yes it can. And then the last question before we jump back into the videos from the Examine Life, what are you doing for sound absorption and diffusion? I don't see any sound treatment in your shots. And so I do have sound treatment in my office. Let me break it down. The first would have to be furniture. I have a couch and I have a rug. You can see my nice high shorts. Anytime you can add furniture or rugs in your space, it'll dampen some of the echo. And then intentionally, I actually have a sound panel up on top of my ceiling, mounted to where my desk would usually be. And so that's gonna help with some of the reverb. I have a sound blanket that I have mounted to not only black out my window, but I also use it as a place that will absorb sound. So between this corner that you see right here, I'm definitely gonna help with some sound. And then lastly, I have this sound panel back here. You don't really see it in my shots, but for a tiled room, that's kind of like the best I could do, I feel, without messing with the aesthetics of the room. And yeah, so that's what I do for sound treatment. But let's jump back into the setup. This video is brought to you by StreamYard. StreamYard is an online streaming platform that allows you to live stream to multiple places at one time. I love StreamYard because you can bring on guests, you can do a slideshow teaching and create cool transitions in between your slides and your camera. You can also upload videos to StreamYard to share those as well while you live stream. And I think it's one of the easiest live stream solutions today. If you want to learn more about StreamYard and get a discount to sign up, go ahead and check out the link in the description below. So that covers my computer, definitely the heartbeat of my desk in and of itself. That my computer allows me to accomplish my tasks like video editing, photography, thumbnails, the whole Adobe suite. But if you're getting value in this video, let me know by hitting that like button. If you're watching on a television, you can't hit a like button. I don't think so. But let me know down to the comments if you have any questions about my desk setup. If you have anything you want to know or any details, let me know, and I do my best to actually answer any and all of those questions. So let me know down below. Now, we're gonna go into the AVL side of things. Like, this desk allows me to produce content, y'all. Like, I got 2 cameras, I'm switching, I'm sharing screens, I got audio, I'm doing the nasty, not really the nasty, but the AVL. AVL stands for audio, video, and lighting. And so with that being said, let's start with audio. As far as my audio goes, the microphone I use is the Rode NT USB Mini. I've been loving this USB mic. It's such a simple plug and play mic that allows you to use software that Rode gives you when you buy this mic, and you can adjust things. It's great for live streaming, and it's a condenser mic, so it has a nice natural sound. I actually have this mic mounted not on a boom clamp onto my desk, because my desk is old school. It's a little too thick. That's THICC thick. And so I have a mic stand that I actually bought on Amazon for around $60. And this mic stand is cool because there's a heavy base to it, and it's at a good height if you plan on sitting or standing and using a mic boom. As far as my speakers go, I use some super cheap, like $25 Logitech speakers that I find them pretty solid. I mean, when I edit video, I'm just making sure audio doesn't peak. And if I need to dial in and do some parametric equalizing and processing, multi-band compressing my audio, then I'll just put on headphones that are reliable and dial in those type of settings. But for the most part, these $25 Logitech speakers are pretty nice. I like how they look. And they just kind of match the black and white theme that I have going on. Now, the lighting side of things, I essentially use two different lights. The first light I use is a 14-inch pancake light from GVM, and this light costs around $150. They have a smaller version for just a couple few dollars less, but again, links down in the description below. But essentially, I only use this light for my Zoom calls and video conference calls and things like that. I don't use this light when I actually go live. When I go live, I use my Big Daddy GVM 100 watt cob light, which produces a nice soft look with the lantern softbox on it. Now moving into the video side of things, I'm excited about this. I actually use two Canon M50 Mark IIs for my live streaming, and I have a Sigma 16mm on the main shot that gives me that nice blurry background, and it's about a medium wide shot. So if I'm at arm's length distance away from my camera, it's perfect for that. And then my secondary M50 has a 30mm lens, which I use to change angles and get close-ups on when I'm showing specific products and things like that, doing a live stream. This whole setup could be interchanged with any camera. And so just so you know, you don't have to go with the M50 Mark II. You can go with something way more older and cheaper as long as it has a clean HDMI. But some wisdom is I actually have continuous power plugged into both of these cameras, so I don't have to worry about the battery dying. I love that they have flip out screens, they have great autofocus, but both cameras actually go into what is called the Blackmagic A10 Mini, and I have the ISO. And so this is a phenomenal device that allows me to switch between two angles, and I just love how reliable and how simple it makes the setup, because the only thing that has to go into my Mac Mini is the one USB-C cable from the Blackmagic. And so I can go up to 4 cameras, or even if I wanted to put a screen on there or what have you. But it allows me to rely on hardware when I'm doing live streams, and sometimes relying on software could be a little tough. As far as the way I've mounted these cameras, I think, again, to clear some clutter, I use a small rig clamp on the GVM light to mount my side M50, the secondary angle. And then my main M50 is actually just with a friction arm, and it's clamped onto my monitor's mount. And this allows me to just keep the camera with the monitor, whether I bring it down or lift it up. And it's just super nice. I've done tripods in the back or found other ways, and it just gets a little cluttered. So that is my desk setup in my home office, and I've really designed it over the course of years to get to a place of what I need to create content and do what I need to do. But I would say personally, I have took off some points when it comes to aesthetics. It's definitely very functional, but aesthetically, I believe it actually could be better and vibier. But that's why I want to show you Kyle's setup. Kyle's one of the editors here at Think Media, and he has been able to build out a super clean and minimal IKEA setup that I think a lot of people will love. So let's jump into it right now.
Hi, my name is Kyle Anderson, and I've been a full-time editor now for 4 years. And more than anything, I just hope that this video inspires you and gives you ideas for your own setup. For more information or links to any items that we mentioned in this video, go ahead and check out the description below. But let's get into the look and aesthetic that I went with, and shout out to Matthew and Cena for inspiring me with this. The first thing I did was paint my main wall a darker color. This puts off a moody vibe, and I tend to get distracted a little easy, so this really helps pull me into my monitors and stay focused on my current project I'm working on. For my tabletop, I went with an 8-foot by 2-foot butcher block from Home Depot. The reason I went with this over the cheaper IKEA alternative is because I really love the look and feel of real wood, but it's also extremely solid, and I knew I was going to have a lot of gear on top of this, so it just keeps everything stable. Now when I purchased this was an unfinished table, so I had to sand it myself as well as stain it and put a finish on it, but I personally love the way it turned out and I think it's really the centerpiece of this whole setup. The butcher block is being held up by 2 cabinets that I purchased from IKEA. These are the Alex model drawer units. I believe they come in 3 different colors. I went with white because it matches the trim of the room. It brings great contrast to the darker wall as well as adding a lot of storage. Next, I mounted the Besta cabinet above the desk. This really gives a finishing touch to the setup, adds more storage, and again, I went with white because it adds that contrast to the dark wall. One of the most practical upgrades that I made was this Ergo Pro chair by Autonomous. I really love the clean design that they have as well as the color scheme of this particular model. It blends in with the rest of my setup, but most of all this has helped improve my posture and my ergonomics while editing. The current price of this model is about $500, but if you're someone like me who sits for long hours, I highly recommend investing in a great quality chair, and this particular model works great for me. Now my whole setup is powered by my MacBook Pro, which I have mounted underneath my desk. I did this because I wanted to keep my desktop as clean as possible, and the mount I'm currently using is one that I built myself, but if you're interested in doing something similar, I'll link options in the description below. And paired with this, I'm using Apple's Magic Keyboard and Mouse because I love the minimal look and the slim design. Now I have my MacBook Pro connected to this hub, which really ties everything on my desk together, and that is the CalDigit TS3 Plus. This one device essentially turns my laptop into a desktop with just one cable. Not only does this charge your laptop, but it also has any port that you will eventually need, and I've command stripped this to the bottom of my desk again to keep it out of the way. If you're interested in the CalDigit, we actually did a dedicated video on this and you can check that out in the description below. Now from the CalDigit, I have my 2 32-inch 4K monitors from ViewSonic. I love these monitors because they have a clean, slim edge to them. It makes them look really nice. And these have accurate colors straight from the factory, which makes them great for graphic designers or a video editor like myself. My main monitor is a horizontal setup, and this is where I do all of my editing on. I don't really need 2 monitors to edit. I usually have my entire Adobe program on this single monitor. Now I have my second monitor vertical, and that's because I mainly use it for web browsing, communicating with the team on Slack, listening to music on Spotify. And I also have my folders open for sound effects, B-roll, and music that I use for video editing, and it's very easy to drag and drop into my project. Now as far as my audio setup goes, I'm using these Yamaha HS5 speakers. I've had these for about 5 years and they put out a nice clean flat sound. And I have this paired with a JBL subwoofer which sits on the floor, and all of this is controlled by an Apollo sound interface which I have sitting on my desk. Now this might sound like a lot. You don't really need a setup like this one. Omar gets by with a pair of budget Logitech speakers, but because of the nature of my job where I'm editing a high volume of YouTube videos, ads, and even podcasts, we really want to make sure we have the audio dialed. And so this setup works great for that. I'm using a Synology NAS system which has 4 14TB drives in it, which totals to 56 terabytes of storage which I have access to drag and drop footage. This works great for keeping my laptop clear of any old footage or files that I've been working on. Now typically this is where an office setup would usually end, but because I work from home, I'm constantly needing to hop on Zoom calls to stay in touch with the team or even join in on live streams. And to do that, I use a Canon M50 with a Sigma 16mm lens, and this lens gives you a clean medium wide shot at arm's length distance. For my microphone, I'm using the Rode NT USB Mini. I really love this mic. It sounds great, it looks good, I love the black color, and I love that you just plug it in and it works. Now another cool thing about my vertical monitor is I actually use that as my main light when I'm on Zoom calls. I just open up a notepad and it casts a nice soft light on my face, and then I use this small GVM light on top of the camera to fill in the rest. And I'm actually using that same GVM light for more accent lighting above my desk. And I love the vibes and the moody atmosphere that it puts off.
My goodness, Kyle's setup is super clean. I definitely think he hits all the boxes when it comes to aesthetics. You know, something that we're always trying to find the tension of is aesthetics versus functionality. And when you get the two to align, it actually is amazing. When you love how your setup looks, but also when it helps you be more productive, it's huge. But if you had to pick one or the other, would love to know your thoughts down in the comments. Do you value aesthetics more, or do you value function more? Let me know down in the comments below. And I actually wanted to answer some of the comments around Kyle's setup that came in. And the first one comes in from Brown, and he asks, what about the chair? What's the name? The chair Kyle has in his setup is called the Autonomous Ergo Chair Pro. This is a $550 chair that really is designed for people who are sitting for long periods of time. There's so much customization that you could do with the arms and the back and the reclining and the headrest and all those things. But check out Autonomous. They probably have one of the best brands when it comes to desks as well as chairs for your office space. But that is the chair from Kyle's office. The next comment came in, it said, why didn't I receive a notification for this video? Bro, this is from Malu Chimes. Dude, it's because you're not subscribed and you didn't hit the bell to get notified and then turn on your YouTube notifications. Here at Think Media, we're dropping one quality video a day, and we work really hard to bring as much value as we can to our community. So make sure you're subscribed and you hit that notification. And then the last question before we jump into the next office idea is, how do you turn your laptop on and off when it's closed and hidden under the desk? The simple answer is you could turn your laptop off when it's closed because you have the display on, so you just tell the computer to be shut down. But that's one way. But if you had to turn it back on, Kyle would have to pull it out of its spot and then turn it on with the laptop itself, let it turn on, and then he can close it and put it underneath. However, you don't need to turn off your laptop. What Kyle does is he actually just makes it go to sleep, and he closes out all his programs and the internet when he's not using it. So all he has to do is move the mouse and then wake up the laptop. And so that's kind of how Kyle would get around turning off and on his laptop, is just to put it to sleep and turning it back on. Now, we're going to be jumping into Sean's setup. Sean is the eagle that has landed. He is the CEO of Think Media. He's the one who started the channel, and he's at a place where he was able to build his dream setup. Like literally, if there wasn't even a budget to build this setup that he did in his Seattle home office, that this is the setup. So this is the ultimate dream setup for any content creator, live streamer, or even entrepreneur who's looking to crush live streams, crush content creation, as well as productivity tasks as he is running this company. But nonetheless, let's jump into Sean's setup. And at the end, he actually shares the amount he actually spent on this setup. And I wanna know your thoughts once he does share that down in the comments, but let's jump into it. Over to Sean.
I've been working on building my dream home office setup for YouTube content creation and live streaming. And it all starts with the Autonomous Smart Desk Corner. Now this is an $1,000 here in the US desk that's L-shaped. It gives me a place where I can sit and read and journal and look out the window. And then of course the side of the desk that's for content creation and live streaming. And I selected white because this office is heavily based on RGB lighting, color lighting. And so the white color will just kind of reflect and pick up the color of light that shines on it. It's super clean, and it's an electric sit-stand desk that allows me to keep moving throughout the day to stay as healthy as possible when working. The computer that is driving the entire desk setup is an NZXT Streaming PC Pro. This is a pre-built machine with the latest GeForce RTX graphics card. Personally, I'm not really gaming with this PC. I'm using it for live streaming, and I wanted to pick it out because of one, speed. It was pre-built, they shipped it in the mail. Graphics cards are kind of hard to get right now. It showed up and it was ready to go. And two, to future-proof the setup for maybe higher resolution live streaming in the future and just a lot of hardware power so it doesn't bog down. Next are some ViewSonic 32-inch IPS monitors. I love live streaming with two monitors because I use one monitor for my dashboard, my notes, maybe some slides I'm gonna teach from, and then the other monitor is the monitor that I share screen from, so it allows me to have plenty of workspace to manage everything. Now, when we first started building this setup, I purchased a dual monitor desk mount, meaning it clamped in one place and there was two arms that split off from it. But because these monitors are 32 inches, there just was not enough flexibility. There wasn't enough strength in the arms. They weren't really built to separate these large of monitors. So I upgraded to some Loctech heavy-duty gas spring monitor arms, and there's two individual arms allowing me to separate the monitors and really get positioning perfect. For the cameras, I have two Sony A6400s. One has a Tamron 17 to 70 millimeter 2.8 lens, and the other has a Tamron 11 to 20 millimeter 2.8 lens. And then for the third camera angle is a Sony ZV-1 that allows me to have a center, left side shot, and right side shot. All of the cameras have dummy batteries, so there's continuous power so they can run indefinitely. For the Sony ZV-1, I have it on an Elgato desk mount, and the two table clamp desk mounts I'm using for the A6400s are by ArcScan. These came in at $88 each, but they're super durable and steady and keep heavier cameras right in place without shake. Now in just a second, we're gonna get into the audio and the microphone and the lighting and so many of the cool accessories and lessons that we learned. But if you've been getting value out of this video and learning something new, can you hit the like button? And today's video is brought to you by StreamYard. StreamYard is how we live stream to our channels like Think Media and the Think Media podcast, as well as our private Facebook groups. Whether it's having smooth transitions from your slides back to your face, or uploading videos to share on your stream, or even bringing on multiple guests for interviews, StreamYard makes live streaming easy. You can try StreamYard today by clicking the link in the description below. Now in just a second, we're gonna talk about audio, but you're probably wondering, how do you tie all of those cameras together and then switch between them? And the answer is called a CamLink Pro. The CamLink Pro is a PCIe capture card that has 4 HDMI inputs. This is why I wanted to get a live streaming PC so that I could add additional hardware and use devices like this. This allows me to actually input multiple different cameras and/or devices. I could use an action camera, a DSLR, a mirrorless camera, a laptop, or a tablet like an iPad. And then you can control those camera angles using different softwares, including the software that Elgato has created. When you combine that with what's called a Stream Deck, and I got the Stream Deck XL, the whole thing talks together and is really easy to use. It takes a little while to set up, but then it makes it easy for me to switch between the 4 camera angles at the push of a button while I'm live streaming. And so when I'm live streaming on StreamYard, essentially I'm able to just select my webcam, select my camera source, and have all 4 camera angles be just simply streaming through that one source. Which brings us to the audio side, or essentially the microphone input side of your software. Here I'm using a Rodecaster Pro, which acts as the audio interface and a mixer for my voice, for guests that come on via StreamYard or Zoom, for music, and for sound effects. One of my favorite parts of this desk setup is the fact that the Rodecaster is lifted up off the desk using a laptop notebook desk mount that comes in at under $40. Then my main microphone is the Shure SM7B. That is plugged in with some Mogami XLR audio cables. There's a cloud lifter as well, and a Rode boom arm. Now it's possible to use the Rodecaster not just as a broadcast tool, but also as an audio interface that goes to your studio monitors. But actually one of the challenges that I ran into was there was no way for me to actually trim out my voice coming back at me over my studio monitors. You can actually do it easily when you're monitoring your audio with headphones, but because sometimes I'm on meetings all day long, I wanted to find a way to work around that. So in this case, I use an Audient ID14 audio interface that essentially runs my desk speakers and my headphones for when I'm in meetings. The desk speakers are by Audio Engine. They are the A2 Plus model, and I also have the Audio Engine S8 powered subwoofer. I definitely recommend the stands. They're designed for them, they're super clean, and they angle them up nice, giving you an overall experience improvement. For the main lights lighting me the subject for live streaming and creating videos, I chose the Elgato key lights. There's a lot of great lights on the market. You can actually save a lot of money and get some different budget options out there, but I was just kind of going for a streamlined workflow. And the nice thing is I can click them on and off with my Stream Deck. And again, that was my goal. Remove all friction so that I can come into this battle station and create content. But I think one of my favorite parts of the whole office is the integration of Philips Hue lighting. We had an electrician install 2 track lights with 5 lights on each of them. Now to be able to have control of all this lighting, I started with the Philips Hue white in color LED smart button starter kit. This has the bridge or the hub which plugs into your internet, basically your Wi-Fi router, giving you control through the app and allowing you to control all the different lights, blend them together, create cool looks. It's pretty amazing. We also installed some lighting behind an IKEA dresser with the Philips Hue rope light. There's a cool iris Philips Hue light on the dresser. And then there's a couple plays on top of the monitors. My goal here was to actually be able to kind of splash my face with crazy different RGB lighting to maybe create that cyberpunk effect or different lighting actually on my face effect. But overall, I'm kind of experimenting and still dialing in this entire setup. And I should mention, the Elgato Stream Deck XL can basically control everything.
My gosh, the lighting in Sean's setup is so dope. I mean, when you can switch between bright and airy, which a lot of people want, that's really cool. But the fact that he can go like, you know, cyberpunk live streamer vibe is really cool, because now you're giving your one set multiple looks, which keeps it fresh and keeps viewers a little bit more engaged because it switches it up. But I wanted to answer some of the questions that came in around this setup. And John asks, how does the battery backup work? The battery backup in Sean's setup just works in the sense that all power runs through that one device. And so if there was a power shortage in his house, that his computer setup would at least be able to stay on for about 12 hours or so he can save anything he's working on, do any final things before he actually would lose out on the power. And so just think of it like a power reserve that the battery backup gives. The next question that came in is, awesome setup. This is from TMA, 2 Mile Arcade. Can I ask, what's the first thing I should buy? When you're building out a setup or an office space, I definitely think the first thing you should think about buying is the thing that's going to run the entire operation. And so Sean has a custom built PC. I have an Apple Mac Mini. Kyle has a MacBook Pro. And so we all have different things, but really you have to think about your needs. You know, Sean's not too worried about being portable with his setup as it's a custom built PC. I'm not too worried to be portable with my Mac M1 setup because I have my iPad and I could work on the go that way. And then Kyle, you know, he has the ability to actually take his edits on the road as he goes, you know, to Washington and back home to Vegas and stuff like that. And he could still have the power to edit videos. And so you just want to ask yourself, what are your needs? You know, do you need a powerful laptop, or do you need just a good desktop, or do you need a custom built PC? But I would encourage the first thing you should buy is definitely the computer you're going to use in your setup. And then the last question before we jump back in and Sean reveals how much his office setup was is from Outside the Fink. He says, where do you get the continuous power battery for the Sony ZV-1, please? Number one, where you get it is you can get it from Amazon. We post all our links down in the description. So be sure to check out the description if you haven't already, because all the information around this video is gonna be linked down below. But that's where you can get a continuous power adapter for the Sony ZV-1 or for any camera you own. We would encourage most people that are using their cameras in a stationary place should just have a continuous power adapter, because you can just plug it into the wall and you don't have to worry about battery. Now, if you're vlogging out and about, that's a whole nother story. However, it's pretty inexpensive to get a third-party power adapter for your camera, and then it'll save you headaches in the long run from not having to worry about your battery dying. But those are the 3 questions I just wanna ask, but let's jump back into the video and let me know what you think when Sean tells you the price of his setup.
Now, I know we've covered a ton, but a couple of things coming up are, in my opinion, the most important parts of this office, and that's related to some of the health aspects and ergonomics. My ergonomics checklist starts with the sit-stand desk, getting the desk positioning not only perfect for a good angle with my arms, but also being able to move throughout the day. I also invested in a Herman Miller chair. Autonomous has some great chairs as well that are a little bit more affordable. This thing costs a fortune. It's almost $2,000 with all the customization I did on it. But one of the things that I think is important when you think about this is I'm gonna be sitting in this chair for the next 10 to 20 years. I'm gonna be in this chair probably longer than I'm gonna be in my car. And having micro adjustments for your back, having your neck, your angles, forward tilt, rear tilt, arm support. And additionally, I got a Logitech mouse that I love, the MX3, and a Logitech keyboard that is ergonomic. Everybody hates the split ergonomic keyboards. Let me know in the comments if you hate those. All of that is to kind of help with some arm challenges that I have, what's called repetitive stress injury. It's kind of like carpal tunnel, some nerve stuff that I have. So I take ergonomics really seriously. And there's also what's called a fluid stance balance board. Now there's other brands of balance board. I love Fluid Stance because it's super well made, kind of a premium balance board, and that allows me to keep engaged throughout the day. I could be taking meetings, standing at the standing desk on the balance board, and burning calories, increasing mobility, increasing flexibility. I take ergonomics seriously. Now, all of the plants and furniture and decor besides the main desk is from IKEA. If the plants were living, I would probably kill them, and so the plants are fake. Furniture's been tough lately, I think because of the pandemic, and so everything was ordered online, and it took a couple months to actually all come in, but I'm really happy with the items that we picked out. The white aesthetic, again, pulls the color of the RGB lights into the entire setup. The pegboards are incredibly practical for organizing little bits and pieces, and they also have a cool look to them. And it's still a work in progress, but for the look of the entire setup, we're still trying to hide all of the wires with zip ties, command strips. There is a battery backup and continuous power supply on the floor next to the subwoofer in case there is a power outage to protect the PC. And if you saw a piece of this setup or something you have a question about, definitely drop that in the comments section below. But you may be wondering, how much did all of this cost? Admittedly, there was some overspending, testing and trying some gear that didn't work out. There were a few things that I already had, like the Sony a6400 cameras. And of course, there's costs of installing track lighting and things like that. So when you add everything up, this studio comes in right around $20,000 USD.
My goodness, $20,000 is a lot of money. However, when you're making money with making content, it actually makes sense because it just goes right back in the business. And now we're doing a tax lesson because you can have a write-off and it actually makes you work faster and more efficient, therefore allowing you to make more money. But all that to say, we actually teach you how you can make money using YouTube with our free 1-hour class at thinkmasterclass.com. You'll learn the secrets on how you can actually build a part-time or full-time income on YouTube using YouTube, all at our free 1-hour masterclass. You can go to thinkmasterclass.com to check out that training, and I know you'll learn a lot at it. But next up, we have Nolan Molt sharing his home office setup. And the reality is he doesn't have a big space at all. But what's so cool of what Nolan's been able to accomplish is he's able to use his space in multiple different ways for multiple different things, whether it's shooting YouTube videos and having different angles, or just the ability to do the tasks he needs to get done, like video editing and creating thumbnails and things like that. So if you got a small space, you're definitely gonna wanna pay attention and check out Nolan's setup here at Think Media.
Hey guys, my name is Nolan Molt with Think Media, and yes, this is an 8.5 by 10 foot room, which is pretty small. And so I got my office in here. This is where I work all day for Think Media, and I shoot my videos in here, I edit in here, I do everything inside of this office. And so I'm excited to share some of the tips that have been able to help me make things as efficient as possible. The number one thing that I did that really created so much more space in this room was taking my entire YouTube setup and putting it onto one stand. Now I actually have an entire video breaking down this YouTube studio on a stand that you guys can click on the screen and watch that. But I'm telling you, this thing just makes things so much easier because it opens up so much space because you have your light, your mic, your camera, and even a phone holder all on one stand. And I just leave this thing set up in the corner of the room at all times, and it makes it so easy. Because this thing is so small and I can tuck it in the corner, being able to just pull it out, throw my camera on top of it, and start filming right away has been a game changer for me, as well as opening up the space. My second tip for you guys, if you have a small office setup, would be to invest in a wide angle lens. Now you'd be really surprised how much this actually opens up the room for you because you can get closer to the camera. Now before I was using something a bit tighter and I had to back away from the camera a lot, and it just made everything feel like I couldn't move around because I was so far away from the camera. I was kind of backed up into my desk. But now that I got this wide angle lens, right now I'm using the Sony a7S Mark III with the 20mm 1.8 lens. I can touch the camera right here, so I'm just an arm's length away, and this really opens up the room. I feel like I can move around and shoot anywhere in this room. A wide angle lens also has that kind of YouTube aesthetic, and it really makes the room feel a lot bigger. When Tony on the Think Media team came over for the first time, I remember he was shocked with how small this room was, and it's because that wide angle lens just really makes it feel so big because you can see a lot more through this lens. Now, this third tip is really cool, and we got this from our friend Omar on the Think team, and it's the photo backdrop. So believe it or not, I shoot all my thumbnails in this office space. I just have these paper rolls on the ceiling, and I can roll them down and shoot photos. I can shoot B-roll, and then when I'm done, all I gotta do is bring it back up, and it's basically out of the way. It's tucked up in the ceiling, up in the corner, and it's never getting in the way. And it's so useful to just pull down on the strings, have them come down, pull them back up, and boom, it's gone. You wouldn't even know that they're in here. It just wouldn't be realistic for me to have stands set up in here and to do a paper drop on some stands. And so actually having these just mounted on the wall has been a game changer for me, and is so nice because I don't use those backdrops all the time, but when I do want to use them, it's very quick, very easy, and out of the way.
How much of you guys are working in a very small and tight place? Would love to know down in the comments. You know, not everyone has the luxury to have a big area to create their desk setup, but I love how Nolan has used his office to do multiple things. It really shows, we like to say, it's not about your resources, it's about your resourcefulness. And so his ability to actually produce different looks and shots in his office and still maintain his productivity is really incredible and impressive. But wanted to answer some of the questions that came in on Nolan's setup. The first one comes from Shayna, and she asked, how do you make your Rode mic cord longer? Now, if you have a traditional Rode mic, it probably comes with a very short cable that's kind of like springy. That's meant to just go from the top of your camera right into the mic jack input. But the way you make it longer is to just buy a longer aux cable or 3.5 millimeter cable. And we'll link to it down in the description below. A cable that could be long enough depending on how far you are. But I think this is the smartest things you could do with a Rode mic, because a lot of the times, if you have a Rode mic that doesn't even require power, you can just boom the mic right next to you, like right out of the shot, like right here, and then run the cable into the camera. And it's almost like you're bringing the audio from you to wherever your camera is if it's further away. And so that would be our recommendation. Again, check out the links down in the description below. Thanks for your question, Shayna. And then the next question is, I am using my bedroom as my office. Do you have any suggestions? I think a lot of people are in your shoes. Flaviano, I hope I said that right. Flaviano, that's probably what it is. But I actually made a video on how to shoot in a bedroom. It's a video where I show how to use the different angles and your best practice if you're gonna use a window light, don't have it behind you, but also how to position yourself. And so you can make your room more inviting than distracting while people watch your videos. So we'll link that video down in the description below, or we'll link it at the end of this video if you wanna catch it that way. But it's a great video that'll help you when using your bedroom as your studio or office. The next question comes from Busket Barn. Where did you get that backdrop retractor? And we actually got it from Amazon, and it's actually a very inexpensive way to transform your space or your background. And you can even mount them onto the ceiling if your ceilings are a little bit low. But yeah, check out the link down in the description. The brand is Newer, and surprisingly, there's not a rod in the middle of it, so whatever size photo backdrop paper you get, the same retractable system will work. Next question comes in from Amazon Narita, and she asks, what if I film from my 50 square foot kitchen, size of a tiny pantry? What should I do for my setup? Appreciate some ideas from you. The first thing I can think of, number one, is if you want any space to feel larger than it is to get a wide angle lens or have a wide angle capture your shot. And you know, if you buy any camera on the market with interchangeable lenses, the chances are it's not gonna be all that wide. It'll be just kind of like medium wide. This setup that I have right now, I'm shooting at 12 millimeters, meaning like my hand is the distance between my face and the camera. And here's why this is important. Number one, it's making this look so big around me. And then number two, I could put my mic right on top of the camera and I'm literally less than a foot away from my mic. So it's picking up really good audio. And so I would encourage you to go for a very wide angle setup. You could use your smartphone. You know, smartphones, you can get a lens that goes onto your smartphone that makes it more wide. Maybe your smartphone already has a wide angle lens, but having a wide angle will make your shot look a lot bigger, like you even see in Nolan's setup. But you could do that with your camera or your smartphone. And then secondly, when it comes to lighting, definitely you just want a light that can fit in it. So they make paneled lights, which are very thin and don't have much depth to it, which is super nice. You could put it right next to your camera and then shoot it at your face, or you could bounce it off a wall and then it'll be a little bit more of a softer light. Or if you don't wear glasses, ring lights are still great, you know? So if you have your wide angle lens, you have a ring light right around it, and it's gonna light you perfectly. And so that's what I would do if I was setting up in a very tight space. I would shoot on a very wide lens, put the mic on top of the camera, and get a light that's not too big to light my face, and you'll be good to go.
Now my fourth tip for you guys is actually to pick up one of these. This is a small rig clamp, and the other piece to this is, right now it's on top of my camera, but it's this 11-inch articulating arm, and this thing is really, really cool. And how I use this is when I'm sitting at my desk back here, I can put this on the shelf and then connect it to my camera, and this gives me a really cool shot of me while I'm doing any sort of screen recordings, any sort of tutorials on my computer. This gives me a really cool camera angle, but it's also great for live streaming, and it doesn't take up a lot of space. You don't need a stand, you don't need a tripod, you need nothing but this tiny little piece, this arm, and it holds up your camera great. It's very sturdy, and so I definitely recommend picking up one of these. You'd be surprised how often this comes in handy if you want to mount something like a shotgun microphone or something like a camera. It's very useful. And this is what the camera looks like as a webcam, and you can see it looks awesome. And the really cool thing is that this did not take long to set up. Like, this does not take up much space at all, and the articulating arm is so useful. I can use it to set up a webcam like this for my live streams or my Zoom calls, or I can use it to mount a microphone. There's just a lot of uses when it comes to this setup, but I love how I can just throw my camera up here and start live streaming. All right, my fifth tip for you guys is to focus on the acoustics of your room. Now, with a small room, you would think that the acoustics would be good because it's small, and so there shouldn't be like a lot of echo, but that's just not true. It's actually kind of hard to get the acoustics right in a small room, especially when you can't put furniture in here. So if you have a couch or something in your office, that's gonna help a lot with those acoustics. But in a room like this, you just don't have the space to put in these big items. And so here's some of the hacks that I've done to make my office sound a lot better. The first one is to throw down a rug. Now, especially if you have wooden floors, this is going to help absorb a lot of that echo in the room just by throwing down a nice rug. Now, the second thing that I've done is I bought this moving blanket. I think it was like $15 on Amazon. I'm gonna have it linked down in the description below, but this really helped block a lot of the echo that was coming off of the walls. And so what I did was I cut some holes in it. I threw it on those command strips that you can just put right on the wall. And this thing hangs up when I shoot videos, and it's really easy to take down, fold it up, throw it in the closet. But this thing really helps so much with collecting that echo and absorbing it into the blanket, so you're not getting crazy echo while shooting your videos. The nice thing is this has a black side and a white side, so if you want to bounce light off of the white side, you can do that. But for me, I like to use the black side so that it's not bouncing any extra light and I can really keep my light contained. But this thing really is a game changer because it's so cheap and it's so light that it's easy to throw on some stands, or if you are in the small space like me, those command strip hooks are really easy if you just put some holes in it. And I mean, they're so cheap, you just might as well pick some up. Even just throwing some of those on the ground would be fantastic because that's gonna help a lot with the sound too. And then again, you can just fold them up, put them in the closet when you're done. If you guys wanna see some really cool home office ideas, then check out Omar's video by clicking on the screen right now. See you guys in the next video.